Welcome to the 2016 NBA Draft Predictions. So with the 2016 NBA Draft only a few hours away, I wanted to give you guys my predictions on where I think certain players will end up, and I'm also going to be talking about the actual teams in the NBA and what trades that might go down, because that is my favorite part of the NBA Draft. Obviously I like to see where certain players will end up, but I also like to see which teams make certain moves and what picks they try and acquire, what players they try to acquire during the NBA draft, because the draft is a really interesting time and it's a chance for teams like the Boston Celtics to acquire some talent. It's also a chance for teams like the Chicago Bulls to go into a little bit of a rebuild mode, trading away maybe some of their key players, also known as Jimmy Butler. So this is what I think will happen during the 2016 NBA draft, and let's get straight into it. With the first overall pick, the Philadelphia 76ers select Ben Simmons. Small forward, power forward from LSU, out of Australia, 6'10". You know what? Let me tell you something about Ben Simmons. He's a great player, alright? Nothing against Ben Simmons, but I'm going to say that whichever team drafts him, they got to make sure that he works every day on his shooting. He's not a great shooter. Something he needs to work on. He's young. He can work on it. But I think that the 76ers will select Ben Simmons. He finally agreed last week to meet up with the 76ers front office. And now it's pretty clear, in my opinion, that Ben Simmons will be the top pick on Thursday. And he will be drafted by the Philadelphia 76ers. The reasoning behind that, in my opinion, is because the Philadelphia 76ers won't base which player they select on which player is best fit for that organization. Brandon Ingram is probably the better fit for the 76ers, but the 76ers, no matter who they pick, Ben Simmons or Ingram, they're not going to be a playoff contender next season or probably even the year after. So you're basing your pick on talent, and the trades, the team that they have right now, it can change a lot throughout the next 2 seasons. You've got Embiid, Jaleel, Noel. One of those players are probably going to leave the 76ers. So, you know what? The 76ers will definitely not base who they choose on which player is best fit for them. So, if you're talking about an overall better player, in my opinion, it's Ben Simmons. Now, from what I've heard, the rumors I've heard and the reports I've read, I think it's pretty clear that the 76ers have already stated that they want to select Ben Simmons. It'll be awkward for me if they end up taking Brandon Ingram, but from what I've read, I'm pretty sure they've already announced that they want to get Ben Simmons. So that's who I think the Philadelphia 76ers will select. With the number 2 overall pick, I see no reason why the Los Angeles Lakers would not select Brandon Ingram. So yeah, Brandon Ingram, small forward out of Duke. I think it's a clear, obvious choice. If Simmons goes number 1, Ingram goes number 2 to the LA Lakers. I think the Lakers obviously would prefer Ben Simmons. Simmons and D'Angelo Russell are really close. Like, they're tight friends. They're really, really close friends for those that don't know. In fact, they've already made an ad together, like an advertisement. I think it was with Nike, involving Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, obviously Ben Simmons and D'Angelo Russell. And it was a pretty funny ad. If I can find it, I'll link it down below if I remember. But yeah, they're close friends. So having Ben Simmons and D'Angelo Russell in the Lakers would be preferred for them. But Brandon Ingram is not a bad option whatsoever. It's a great outcome for them if they can draft him. He's a long athlete. His wingspan is crazy. If you just look at him, like, you can look at a picture of him and you can tell his arms are freaking long as. He's being compared to Kevin Durant. Obviously, he's no Kevin Durant. He might eventually one day be Kevin Durant, but if you're thinking straight out of college, Kevin Durant to the Lakers, not happening. He's a great player. He can shoot the ball, unlike Ben Simmons. But he's a great fit for the Lakers, really. I mean, either way, the Lakers wouldn't lose Simmons or Ingram. So, shout out to the Lakers. They're going to have a really nice young core of guys of Russell, Randall, Ingram, and obviously Clarkson if they want to, obviously re-sign him or just, yeah, he's a restricted free agent, so they can match the offer for him. So, a young, nice core for the Lakers. Ingram could be the player that helps return the franchise back to where they want to be, back to the NBA championship days. So yeah, shout out to the Lakers. They're going to select Brandon Ingram probably, and He's going to fit perfectly with the young Lakers core. So, yeah, that's what I think the Lakers will do during this year's NBA draft. With the 3rd overall pick, the Boston Celtics select no one. That's my prediction. I think they're actually going to trade this 3rd overall pick away. What the Celtics need is a star. They need a star, or just a player that what they don't need is a rookie. They don't need a rookie. They need to get a superstar. Whether they get that player in free agency or whether they get that player during the draft by making trades, which they have some really valuable assets that they can use to, attract a good trade from another team. I think that the number 3 overall pick will be traded. Some players that I think they can try and acquire with that 3rd overall pick is Chicago's Jimmy Butler. Chicago's probably going to go into a rebuild mode. They didn't make the playoffs this year. They're probably going to lose Pau Gasol. They're losing Joakim Noah. I think it's just a rebuild mode time for the Chicago Bulls. It's time to get into rebuild mode. You don't know what's going to happen with Derrick Rose, so trade Jimmy Butler. Trade him before he becomes unhappy and you can't get anything for him. That's what I think. But if they can get a 3rd overall pick for Jimmy Butler, well, I think both teams will win in that scenario. It allows the Bulls to go into a rebuild mode with the 3rd overall pick and the 14th overall pick. And it also allows the Boston Celtics to obviously acquire Jimmy Butler, who's a proven superstar now, an all-star, a great player. Some other players, Utah Jazz, Gordon Hayward, Milwaukee's Jabari Parker or Chris Middleton could be a nice fit for the Celtics. Obviously, those two are not really stars, but they'd still be a nice fit for the Celtics. What I also think, though, is these two are not stars at all, but it really makes sense for both teams, alright? The 76ers either get rid of Jahlil Okafor or Nerlens Noel, and they send one of them to Boston for that 3rd overall pick. The 76ers in that instance can draft Buddy Hield, Chris Dunn. They can draft Jaylen Brown. I don't know. Probably I'd say Chris Dunn or Buddy Hield would be the main 2 guys that they'd be looking to acquire. Or, no, even Jamal Murray. My bad. Jamal Murray would probably be another guy that they could acquire. Jamal Murray, Buddy Hield, or Chris Dunn. The Celtics would also be pretty happy with that trade because I'd probably rather take Jahlil Okafor or Nerlens Noel than Kelly Olynyk. So, there you go. That's what I think the Boston Celtics will do. Let's say that they keep their pick and they decide to draft someone. I think Jamal Murray, shooting guard from Kentucky, pretty good choice. I don't think you lose if you draft Jamal Murray. If they don't get Murray, another option obviously is Buddy Hield or Chris Dunn. But I think Jamal Murray, if they keep their pick, that's the guy that they get. With the 4th overall pick, the Phoenix Suns select Dragon Bender. Now, Dragon Bender, he's a guy from Israel, so shout out to Israel, Dragon Bender. I reckon the Suns will get him. I don't see why the Suns would try to acquire a shooting guard or a point guard or like a smaller kind of guy. They don't really need that. They've got Eric Bledsoe, they've got Brandon Knight, they've got Devin Booker. They don't really need to draft one of those shooting guards, point guard type of guys. So I think Dragon Bender is probably the obvious choice. He's 18 years old. He's a power forward. He can stretch the floor, which is something that I think Phoenix really needs a stretch for. Although they had Mirza Teletovic and he was alright, but I think Dragon Bender, being a rookie and being sort of like, he's just a stretch four. He's a stretch four. Unfortunately, though, without knowing how well he's played, because he's never played college or anything like that, he's obviously from another country, just like Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons played college, so you can kind of get an understanding with him. Dragon Bender never played college, so he's coming from another country, a little bit like Kristaps Porzingis from last year. So Dragon Bender is probably the best option for them. With the 5th overall pick, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves will select Buddy Hield. Now, I know what you're thinking. They've got Ricky Rubio. They've got, obviously Zach LaVine. They've got a whole bunch of, point guard, shooting guard type players. The thing is about Buddy Hield, he's a guy that contributes straight in. He if you want to ever trade Ricky Rubio, now's the time. Ricky Rubio, you can trade him. You don't need him anymore. You've got LaVine. You've got Buddy Hield if you draft him. Or even Chris Dunn. I think Buddy Hield is the best choice. Now, they also just got Tom Thibodeau as the coach for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And He already stated in an interview that he wants to make the NBA playoffs. He thinks this team is almost ready to make the NBA playoffs, and Buddy Hield is someone that contribute immediately. Like, he can go into that team and contribute. So Buddy Hield is he's a ready to play type of player, and not to mention he's probably the best shooter in the draft. So yeah, Buddy Hield will be a great fit for the Minnesota Timberwolves. It'd be a different lineup if you have him in the game instead of Rubio, because it allows some more three-point shooting. Yeah, I would say that Buddy Hield is probably the best choice for the Minnesota Timberwolves. It allows some trade rumors to go down with Ricky Rubio, and I think it's a great choice to select Buddy Hield. With the 6th overall pick, I think Chris Dunn will go to the New Orleans Pelicans. I think Anthony Davis needs a player like Chris Dunn. Obviously, Drew Holiday's there, but Chris Dunn can learn a little bit about the NBA after, just learning a little bit from Drew Holiday. You got to remember, Drew Holiday was pretty good, all right? He was an all-star, although he's kind of dropped off since he got traded to the New Orleans Pelicans in that trade. I think it was 2014 or 13. Anyway, the year that Noel got drafted, there was a trade involving, obviously, Noel for Drew Holiday. And Drew Holiday, he's kind of slowed down a little bit after going to New Orleans in that trade. But if Chris Dunn can learn off a player like Drew Holiday, then that's a great player to learn off. Even though Drew Holiday hasn't really proven himself since being in New Orleans, I think it's a great player to draft if you're the Pelicans. You want to get somebody like Chris Dunn. And it also allows you to trade away Drew Holiday if you want. It allows you to even trade away Eric Gordon if you want. It allows for some trades that the Pelicans can look towards. I reckon Chris Dunn is just a good pick. So Chris Dunn, I think he'll go to the Pelicans at 6. If not Chris Dunn, Jaylen Brown, a great choice. Shooting guard, small forward. I would think Jaylen Brown would be on the board at this pick. And I think it's either Chris Dunn or Jaylen Brown to go to the Pelicans. With the 7th overall pick, I talked about him before, but I think the Denver Nuggets will select Marquise Chris, a power forward. Now, I know what you're thinking. A power forward, though? They don't really need a power forward. You've got obviously Kenneth Faried there, but if you remember earlier this year, the Denver Nuggets were looking to make some trades, and they were looking to see who they could get for Kenneth Faried. Obviously, a trade never went down. I remember the Raptors were really intrigued with Kenneth and wanted to make a trade for him, but the Denver Nuggets didn't want to give up Kenneth Faried for, I think it was Terrence Ross and a few other pieces, but that trade never ended up happening. So if they draft Chris, then Kenneth Faried could be on the block and they can make some trades for him. But if not, Jaylen Brown, another player, he's a shooting guard. You've got, if you compare Emmanuel Mudiay, Jaylen Brown, Kenneth Faried all in that one team, that's not bad. Although Jaylen Brown isn't a great shooter, so if you have Mudiay and Jaylen Brown as a backcourt, then you can't shoot really well with that team. So I guess you'd probably look to get Chris if you can, and he's got a lot of potential, but he's just not as polished as some of the other guys on the board at this pick. So yeah, the Denver Nuggets, I think they'll take Chris or Jaylen Brown, but yeah, I think Chris is probably a good option for them. At number 8, talked about him before, Jaylen Brown. He's a guy that can go anywhere, really. He can go from a top 3 pick to a top 10 pick. Like, it's crazy. I don't know where Jaylen Brown will finish. Originally, when I looked up Jaylen Brown way back, it was almost last year, really. I was looking at guys that I thought could make a top 5 pick. And the guy that I thought would even make top 3 was Jaylen Brown. Unfortunately for him, from what I know, his plays kind of dropped down a little bit. And Ben Simmons and Ingram have risen up. But from what I researched a while back, it was really Ingram, Simmons, and Jaylen Brown. And I'm not really hearing too many things about Jaylen Brown anymore, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jaylen Brown ends up going top 5. Although, I do think that the Kings, if Jaylen Brown is on the board, the Kings will select Jaylen Brown. He's a shooting guard that can play next to DeMarcus Cousins, Rudy Gay, Rondo if he still returns to Sacramento. They've also got Willie Cauley-Stein. So, look, the Kings are in a difficult spot. The main reason is because DeMarcus Cousins might not stay with Sacramento. We've heard rumors that he might be leaving. The Boston Celtics have a huge chance to attain DeMarcus Cousins. Because, you know, if the Sacramento Kings can get that 3rd overall pick, the 8th overall pick, you could take that. You never know. DeMarcus Cousins, if he's not happy with Sacramento, the Celtics have a huge chance to attain him. So they'll either end up as the 3rd pick and the 8th pick and lose Boogie, or they'll keep Boogie, keep the 8th pick, and draft Jaylen Brown if he's on the board. If he's not on the board, I don't think Buddy Hield or Chris Dunn will be there. So, and after that, it's really just big men. So if I was Sacramento, I'd really hope Jaylen Brown was there. I would like to see Boogie and Brown on the same team, to be honest. Now, because I don't want this video to go for too long, I'm going to go pretty quick from here on out. I think the Raptors will select Henry Ellison, a power forward that they really need. I mean, it's really up to the Raptors who they want to select. They got a whole bunch of options at power forward. They could trade down because there's so many great power forwards in this year's NBA draft. I think they have the ability to trade down and gain some other assets. They don't really need that pick that they have. They already have a really great team. Yeah, I think Thonmaker could also be a great pickup for the Raptors. But they also have pick 27, so they can select Thonmaker at pick 27 as well. Shout out to Thonmaker, he's also from Australia. With pick number 10, I think the Bucks will select Jacob Poeltl. I'm not too sure how you say his name. I don't really know anything about him, but from what I've read, he's a stretch 4. He's pretty good. I don't really know what the Bucks need. They're a weird team. They could either go for a big man or a point guard. So, to be honest, the Bucks, they might even make a trade during this year's draft. The Bucks are in a weird position, but they have the 10th overall pick, so shout out to them. Yeah, 10th overall pick is pretty good. With the Magic, I think that the Magic will select Deonte Davis. Now, Davis is a power forward, once again, like most of the guys on the board at this point. And they have 3, like this, yeah, I don't know. Davis seems like a pretty good guy. He's 6'11", so a 6'11" power forward center. He's a great shot blocker. So, I mean, the Magic will need a great defender because Vucevic is not that great of a defender. Yeah, you never know what the Magic will do. But I think Davis is a great pick. Now, with the 12th overall pick, the Utah Jazz select Wade Bolden. Wade Bolden is a shooting guard. He can play multiple positions. He's pretty tall. He's a great defender, which is something I think the Jazz need because I know that Exum isn't that great of a defender. Rodney Hood is okay. They've got Trey Burke here and there, but he's not. He can only really play point guard. So the Utah Jazz, I think another shooting guard, small forward is what they need, and I think they'll select Wade Bolden. With the 13th overall pick, the Phoenix Suns will select Skal Labissiere. Skal is a guy that he used to be scouted really high. I remember it was really it was Simmons, Ingram, it was Jaylen Brown, and Skal Labissiere. Skal has dropped down a lot from what I used to think he was. I used to think he was really good, and I used to really know quite a bit about Skal Labissiere. But Skal, I'm not even sure if I know how to say his last name right, but I know it's Skal or something like that, man. I know of him. I know he's from Kentucky, and he's pretty good. Although they also would select Dragon Bender earlier in the draft, I think that Skal Labissiere, he can play center and power forward. So, yeah, I think he'd be a nice fit for the Phoenix Suns. And with the last pick that I'm gonna say for the Chicago Bulls, the Bulls are in a difficult spot. I reckon they'll either trade away this pick. They'll either trade away some of their key pieces, maybe Jimmy Butler, maybe Derrick Rose. I don't know what the Bulls will do. They'll do something during this draft. Just watch. They've lost Noah. They've lost Powell. The Bulls will probably select a power forward, and I wouldn't be surprised if they select Sabonis at that position if he's there. They just need someone inside that has toughness and who's tenacious inside the paint. And yeah, I think he's a good player that they can pick up. And that is the top 14 NBA draft prospects I think that will be picked. So yeah, let me know who you think will get picked and where you think they will get picked, and let me know what trades you think will happen. It's been your boy NickSmith. Please give this video a like if you guys enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new for more NBA videos just like this one. I'm out. Peace.